God created man to live forever. It was Adam's sin that brought death into the world. God told Adam, because of you, the earth is cursed. From that time forward, lifespan has been decreasing. Were the ages allegorical? No. Could the ages have been lunar months? No, because the patriarchs would have been having children like Kenan, which would have placed them at less than 6 years old, Seth at 8 years old, Enoch at 5. So obviously the lunar months are not realistic. The extreme ages of the years and the people in the Bible, like the 10 patriarchs, aren't just about them. They're actually mentioned throughout the Bible, where it shows that man's life diminishes to his lowly place of 100. Even the epic Persian called the Book of Kings lists similar ages, up to 1,000 years. You find these in Greece, China, India, Vietnam, South America, and Japan. Significant research was done on the matter of these chronological genealogies, which concluded that they line up to the calendars of many traditions and cultures worldwide. So we're pretty confident that the actual years in the calendars of the ancient Hebrew sects reflect this, including others. Jewish people believe that they were literal. It's in their language, it's their scriptures, they wrote it, so we presume that they understood their own language. So with different environmental conditions, such as more pressure, which has been shown to increase lifespan, fruit flies in the hyperbaric biospheres in Texas live 10 times longer than normal just by increasing air pressure. With more magnetism in the past, we have been shown that increasing lifespan with just magnetism did something to the piranhas. They grew up to 4 times larger and grew twice as long. The stronger ozone layer in the past that protects us from ultraviolet radiation, which would increase lifespan and health as well, while at the same time discovering that early Earth was actually like a Garden of Eden. We also have evidence from hyperbaric chambers, which are wonderful tools for testing. So far, we have made huge dragonflies and many other creatures, but they were testing mostly for size. But what they found out is that life expectancy went up in every single case. Since they were either replicating one or more of the aspects of ancient Earth, then we know by empirical evidence that life extension just from living back then was possible. And yes, Denisovans and Neanderthal were totally humans. Studies have shown that 95% of their DNA is identical to present-day humans, and Neanderthal DNA appears to fall inside the variation of present-day humans. I know they portrayed Neanderthal as a hunched-over, hairy ape man, but this is not the case, as Neanderthal actually had less body hair than present-day humans. For example, this is due to a genetic marker called RS4849721. They are both shared by us and them. No surprise there. Here's an instrument they made, so they were making instruments and playing music, which no primate does. We know that ancient man was physically superior as well. They had larger brains, and we know today that larger brains correlate to longer lifespan. And we go back in time, as you can see, the physically superior they get. Scientists wanted to compare the Neanderthal genome to see how different they actually were. So they picked a random Neanderthal from the GenBank NC01137. The findings were shocking that Neanderthal had far less mutations than people today. This is what would be expected with creationism, with our model, if ancient man was superior than modern day man. Neanderthal children had no brow ridges. These brow ridges grew very slowly over time throughout their life. Even Neanderthal teens still had no brow ridges. So we know observationally they were extremely aged people, just like our model says. Neanderthal teeth have also been investigated, and there are more good evidence because they have high fractal enamel repair systems, including enamel regeneration inside their teeth, called pellicle, allowing their teeth to heal, unlike humans today. Here's the jaw of a 13-year-old kid from the 1960s. Research concluded that the jaw turned out to be the equivalent of today's child of 9 years old, meaning that a child in the late 1600s did in 13 years what it only takes 9 years today to accomplish for a child. This is more proof that we were slower developing in the past. Now, with no one alive right now at the age of 500, how can I make the argument that in the past that they did? Well, this is easy. I can answer this with a question. Can man today live to 900? Well, the answer is yes. Here's a gerontologist by the name of Dr. Aubrey de Grey. He's a pioneer in anti-aging, a biologist and biomedical gerontologist who works for the Sense Foundation, trying to discover a cure for aging once and for all. This isn't science fiction. It's on the horizon for all of us. This is what transhumanism movement is all about. It's about using science and technology like gene editing software, CRISPR-Cas9, to tap into our genetic activation dormant longevity genes so we can switch them on and live forever. So if man today has the potential to live for 1,000 years, why couldn't physically and genetically superior ancient man living in these far better environmental conditions with better foods, fewer diseases, live for that amount of time? Logically, we could. But heavy bombardment can come from tobacco smoke, harmful food additives, radon gas, chemicals, and a lot of ultraviolet radiation. The MTHFR gene mutation function is actually broken anywhere from 20 to 70% in all people on Earth today. This matters because it's a master gene regulator. It controls how well other genes work. So the worse it gets, the worse others get. For example, here's the Dickinson children, dubbed the Methuselah children. They were kept prisoner by their mother in an attic for their entire childhood, never allowed outside to play even once. So they never were exposed to the damage of the sun's radiation, which causes what? You guessed it, more harmful mutations and faster aging. Here are the kids at 15, 13, and 18 years old. As you can see, their age is very, very slow. Another good example is Jeannie Wiley. Her entire life, she was actually chained to a toilet because of her incontinence, and her dad thought she was retarded, so he didn't want anything to do with her, so he locked her in a room. Here she is at 19 years old. She was never exposed to the sun's radiation. She also stopped aging. Here's a retired truck driver, the left side of his face exposed to the sun as he drove his entire career. Here are identical twin sisters. One worked outside, the other worked inside. Here are two twins. One is a smoker, high mutational load, the other is not. Stacked with this and the fact that humans add 64 mutations every single generation, we have a problem. We also have aging diseases today. Here's Werner syndrome and here's progeria. These diseases are proven that they link genes to aging. Next, we have our biblical creation model, which lines up with the evidence of early Earth was being more conducive to living longer and preventing ultraviolet damage today. This stacked with the genetic factors that allow man to live much larger. Our original diet and how man ate compared to now is also very different. Today, people eat almost anything and cook nearly all of their foods. The Pottinger cat study proved without question that the harm that this does to a population over time. We humans are no different. We were created to eat a certain way, and no one does this anymore. With a generation after generation of doing everything wrong, we see what we see in the world today. This is evidence is topped with the fact that we know heirloom wild fresh foods are healthier and superior for health than today's high sugar content hybrids grown for our current sugar craving population that are picked early and sit on grocery store shelves for who knows how long. Most people don't even eat vegetables or fruit. So also, considering that nearly everybody has their longevity genes turned off in people permanently today from mutations or wrong SNP attachment to the gene, we have identified over 16 specific genes correlated with aging. So the best question should be, if man can now live to be 1,000 by turning back on these dormant genes, why couldn't man in the past who had these genes be already functioning and have less total mutation buildup, not live so long? It seems logical based on the evidence that these mutations build up and that the genome is crumbling. So with more pure genetics, this longevity would have been normal. So we believe that, and also know that magnetism makes things live longer, pressure makes things live longer, we know that diet makes things live longer, we know that fewer mutations mean less disease, we know that stronger genetics makes things live longer. Then why is it impossible to think then that all of those things put together, man couldn't live much longer? I think it's crazy to assume that they didn't. So I would love to know why a gerontologist, geneticist, a specialist in the field of aging, who all say that inside of us is the capacity to live like the people lived in the Bible. So if the biological evidence is inside of us and the scientific evidence shows that man has the ability to live to extreme ages currently, so if we have this potential inside of us right now, locked away, then it's pretty strong evidence that ancient man was far superior in the past, either way. Mankind could have reached these extreme numbers like the ancient texts talked about. Now, we do find evidence for these extreme ages when we test their bones. For example, Neanderthals that were found in Spain had far better and longer lives than those that were found in the north that lived in extreme cold regions of the world. They became inbred and cannibal, but all of the bones found in Spain were saturated in strontium, meaning they were plant eaters. They had large and thick skulls, and their dental examinations proved that they were extremely aged human beings. This can be denied or rationalized away, but the fact is, I think that humans lived for a very, very long time, and we do have evidence to back this up. Or you can just continue to believe those who are not experts in aging, but have guessed or estimated ages based on their own personal interpretation of the evidence, based on their own uniformitarian belief that they were indoctrinated to believe. And they use biased assumptions when calibrating all molecular clocks. The theory of evolution is the only theory that is protected by law. It is not open to criticism and has removed all variants to be falsified and removed as a theory.